The question is, what can you do to prepare for that future? So here's my doctrine that I share with my mentees, and I share this with my Stanford students, and I share this with my high school mentees as well. Really, 6 things. First and foremost is be resilient. Do you know what resilience is? Can you share with me what your understanding of the word resilience is? What do you think is resilience? Thoughts?
Any one of you guys, Soham or Adrian?
Yeah. And Bindu, you can jump in. Yeah, go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
Like being able to adapt to change.
Yeah, being able to adapt to change. So resilience, that term actually means bouncing back. That's what it actually, literal meaning of it is bouncing back. Addressing the change and adapting to change is actually a key element of resilience. How do you bounce back from a disruption, a challenge? This pandemic has been a major disruption in our lives. Our resilience of the society will be demonstrated if we are able to bounce back from it in a sort of way that the impact was minimized, right? So resilience, you're spot on. So be resilient, learn to be resilient. Really, really important to anticipate the unanticipated, and then when it happens, respond to that with resilience by bouncing back and having the capability to do so, having the mindset, having the skills, and so on. So that's number one. Second, really critical, develop empathy. Again, what does empathy mean? Adrian, what do you think empathy means?
Like being able to understand stuff from other people's perspective.
Absolutely. That's actually a great definition. That's actually spot on. Putting yourself in the shoes of the other person. It's different from sympathy. Sympathy is what you feel for others. Empathy is what you understand what the other person is thinking or feeling. Major difference. Empathy allows you to understand what the other person is thinking or saying or doing. Okay. Why is that important? Because machines have a hard time doing it. Machines can't empathize. They don't have the human, brain that has developed since your childhood, since your babyhood, all the way to adulthood. These skills that are deep rooted in our brain. Computers haven't grown up that way. Computers are coded. They are, even with artificial intelligence, it's hard to actually develop that unless they have algorithms that allow them to learn that empathy. It's very, very hard to do. They might get there at some point, but they have a hard time. It's a uniquely human quality. And the more you have empathy, the more you're able to understand what other people, other stakeholders of society are thinking, doing, saying, and it's going to be useful later on. I'll come to the punchline later on that one. So that's empathy. This third thing is, so empathy is not about, being this good human being who understands others. It is an element of it, but it is far more fundamental in nature because it'll allow you to do things differently if you develop empathy. The third one is know your world today and where the world is going. You being on this call is actually a part of it. You are trying to understand what is around you, like what has happened during this pandemic. There's a lot of information overload out there, and being able to make sense of it is a really critical element. So I think you're in that era. Like when we were growing up, information was far more limited. Our parents' generation even less, right? You have way too much information on your fingertips, but information does not mean that you understand the world. So what I'm recommending here is that you should know what the way world is today, different elements of it, and then also understand where it might go ultimately, because you're going to solve problems for that future world, right? So that's the third part of it. Fourth one is, and this is really important, and actually, so Bill Gates and Melinda Gates actually spoke at Stanford during one of our graduation ceremonies. They were keynote speakers, but 4 or 5 years back, they talked about this. They said to my students, you're going to graduate today. You're going to go get a job that you're excited about, but try and look around and see what problems exist around us. You may not be able to do very much about it today, but think about them. And when you have the skills and capability to solve them, come back to them. So they didn't force them to actually do that today, but they said, come back to them. What I'm encouraging is you start thinking about that today, because once you figure out what problems engage you, that you feel very compelled by, you will build a career around that. The solutions will come to you. You will start to put different pieces of what you do together. again, it's not doing good for the society, even though that's an element of it. It's really doing good for yourself. The moment you figured out what makes you tick, what makes you very passionate about in your life, you would find careers that are going to be very meaningful. So, and in my 51 years of life, that's what I've discovered, that once you found that, you will make money from it, you'll be very successful at it, but you'll also be very impactful. And that's the ultimate of a professional career when you get to that stage. So start to look around the society and see what problems exist. And you can be analytical about it. You don't have to be just emotional about it, okay? Fifth one is learn the tools of the future. Any opportunity you get a chance to learn data science. Data science is very simple, actually. It's made to be very complicated. Excel spreadsheet is data science. You put the numbers in there, you start to look at the numbers and say, I see a pattern there. That's data science. Artificial intelligence is a little more involved, and you got to actually learn more tools, machine learning and so on. Robotics is the same way. But if you get opportunities, like there are robotics kits now that you can play with, right? So if you get opportunities, whether in your classroom, in your clubs, in your careers that intern might get you exposure to, learn those tools. I think there is a job, there's a company, if I recall, Gitanjali, that actually is focused on 3D printing of medical devices. 3D printing of medical devices that go into human beings, basically using 3D printing for that. Such a forward thinking, like that didn't exist when I was doing my PhD. That did not exist. So it's a really remarkable tools. You can do internships in those things and learn those tools. Employers are willing to teach you those skills, right? So that's a fifth thing, that you should be open to learning those tools. Don't close your mind to it, basically, and whatever interests you. You don't have to learn every single thing out there, right? And the last thing is, and this is probably the most important thing that you got to learn, and I'm hoping that you all are already good at it, but continue to get better. Communication. This is the oldest tool in human civilization. I don't know if you guys have read Sapiens. I think I have a book here. I'll show you. It's Yuval Noah Harari, a great thinker, writes really well. He talked about last 70,000 years of human evolution. Homo sapiens is the species that we are, but we are not the only Homo species. There was Homo erectus, Neanderthals, other kinds of Homo species, but Homo sapiens succeeded. They became the dominant species on Earth. Do you know why? Because they actually had this communications revolution. There were the three revolutions that society has gone through. Communication revolution was the first one. They were able to communicate with each other effectively. And that's how the groups became from 150, which was the most effective size by that time, to thousands of people. The reason our cities have come together and so on in such large numbers is because we are able to communicate. Without communications, we wouldn't be able to survive and thrive as a species. That tool is going to be useful for you in your careers, no matter what you do. So that's a last one I would recommend. So those are the six basically elements or doctrine for the future. If you practice these, there are others also, but these six are really core to what will help you be successful. Beautiful thing is that nearly every one of these actually get you get exposure to these when you go out and do experiential learning.